What can I do if I'm traveling through an area that is going to dip down into the 20s overnight, but I'm not going to stay there long term? In today's video, we're going to do a very quick checklist along the side here of 10 things that we do every time we see the temperatures drop below freezing. Well, it might not look like it now, but 24 hours ago, this is what it looked like. With lows in the 20s. It is getting cold here, and I'm sure for a lot of you around the country, it's getting cold on you too. Last year, we spent some time in Columbia, Missouri for an entire contract, and it was very cold. You can check out that video up here. We did a whole episode looking into the R values of the insulation and whether your rig is capable of 4-season weather and what you can do to make it more adaptable for cold weather. But today, we're going to talk about some really quick tips on what you can do if the cold weather sneaks up on you and you're not planning on staying in it for a long-term period of time. You're just maybe driving through and the temperatures are dropping, or there's a cold snap that comes through and the temperatures are gonna drop for 1 or 2 nights. These are our go-to tips on what we do. We're going to do it checklist style, so I'm going to put right up here exactly what we do to our rig to prepare ourselves for overnight lows in the 20s. I hope you can hear me over the sound of the highway. We're literally right next to the highway, as you've probably seen in other videos, so we just have learned to deal with it. Number one thing to do on our checklist is watch the weather. And if we see that there's going to be a cold front coming in, then we know that we have a little bit of time to get prepared. Whatever weather app that you have, just make sure you keep an eye on it and look for temperatures that are low. They're going to be lower than freezing. If it's going to dip into the 20s, you're going to want to do something about it so that you don't freeze your pipes or hurt something on your rig. The next thing you should know is that you're probably going to need a dehumidifier, and there's not really any way around this. You could try to use the damp Raid or Aid, or I'm not sure what they're called, those things that have the crystals in it that absorb moisture. You could try to use those. We used those initially, but that was when we were in Phoenix and the air was dry anyways. It does not work if you're in any kind of a moisture-rich area. You're really going to need a dehumidifier, because when you close up everything in your RV, you're just going to get a lot of condensation, and the walls are going to be wet, your clothes are going to be wet, your bedspread, your sheet. You're going to want a dehumidifier. It's also a good idea to have extra water on hand, because you can go through all of these tips and checklists that I have on this list for you guys, and you still might have your pipes freeze overnight. And if your water pipes freeze, you're not gonna have water. The nice thing is most of the piping in here is made to expand and contract, so it's probably not going to burst on you, but I'm not gonna say it can't. Even a used milk jug full of water that you can just pour into the toilet so you can still flush the next morning until it warms up enough, or and also having like a pitcher of water for drinking. The next thing is, when you are anywhere near cold weather, you want to make sure that your propane tanks are always good to go. All right, here's ours. We have two 20s in here. We always have only one of these on at a time. Some people, you can open them both up so you have all of it at your disposal, but then you have no idea when a tank is empty. So what we do is we keep one tank open and the other tank closed. And then when we run out of propane, we come out here and we switch it to the next tank. And this one that is empty, it gets pulled out and replaced with a full one. And that full one is in the back of John's truck right now. So we always have 2 tanks on board that have propane in it. And so then when we switch out this one that's empty, then John knows that he needs to go get it refilled. Those are the things that we do kind of prior to the cold weather getting here. Now, the night before the cold weather is actually here, we have a few things that we do outside. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to fill our freshwater tank. Maybe not all the way, depends on how many nights it's going to be cold. We're gonna make sure that we have enough water for our family needs. So that includes if we need to take showers or, obviously drinking water and water for the toilet. So we may fill it up all the way, or we may just fill it up halfway if it's only gonna be for a night. We're going to completely disconnect the water hose from both the RV and from the spigot, and make sure that it is empty. Empty out the hose as best we can. And then we're also going to take off the water filter. Why? because we have had multiple water filters crack on us. What happens is the water that's inside the filter, when you go to bed, expands, it cracks the filter, and then you gotta go buy a new one. So we've just learned to take it off before the cold weather hits. Make sure your valves are closed. Now, some of you keep your valves closed all the time anyways. Us, we go through a lot of water as a family of 5. We usually keep our gray tank open and our black tank is always closed. If it's gonna be cold, we're gonna go ahead and shut that tank, because the last thing that you want is to have like frozen yuck inside your tube. You're also gonna wanna make sure your sewer hoses are empty. They should be like kind of at an incline anyway, so they shouldn't have stuff in them, but make sure they are empty so that they don't freeze and crack on you. Of course, my kids got home right when I'm gonna go inside with the camera. They went to the park. I can hear them in there saying, "Mom, Mom, Mom." I wonder how long it will take them to come find me. Mom, Mom, should I just not make a sound? I'll just stay out here.
What's up, Mom?
You found me! What's up? Hey, you look really handsome in that. They're inside now. I'm gonna stay out here because it's a loud, crazy, chaotic mess inside my house currently. When the weather is coming, you wanna make sure that your water pump is not going to freeze. Ours happens to be in an area that is not in our heated underbelly portion of the rig for some reason. And so we have had instances where our water pump just freezes and it won't work until it thaws out. And so then we have no water. Even though our fresh tank is full of water, we can't get it because our water pump froze. So what we do is we put a light bulb down in the little area. We make sure that it's just kind of hanging in there. It's not touching anything, but it's just a regular light bulb. I think it's a 40 watt. And you just stick it in there and it keeps it warm enough so that it doesn't freeze over. Next thing that we always make sure that we do on our checklist here is that if we have the space heater out and running, that we turn it off before we go to bed. Not only is it like a fire safety thing to make sure they're not running overnight when they're basically unattended. So what happens is it doesn't trip your thermostat to turn the heat on. And you have to have the heat running in order to blow air through your underbelly if you have an underbelly. So you have to make sure that you have your heat on and running all night long, and that you don't have a space heater on that's gonna mess with your thermostat. If you have heated tanks, bless you, that's amazing. My parents have heated tanks, it's amazing. We do not, but if you have them, sometimes they require you to physically turn on the heating feature. So you'll wanna make sure that you do that as part of your checklist. If you like heated blankets, you can, like we have heated throws for each of our beds. We like sleeping with heated blankets because it allows us to keep the temperature down and save us on propane. Still heated enough to keep things from freezing, but generally we turn it all the way down to 60, which means that the rig does get pretty cold at night. So we all have heating blankets to keep us nice and toasty in our bed and hopefully save us a little bit on propane. The last thing on our checklist is going to be to make sure that your carbon monoxide detector works and has batteries. And the reason why is because when you seal everything up to try to stay warm, you're also sealing all of the carbon monoxide inside the RV with you, and it needs a place to escape or you're going to trip that alarm. Make sure you crack a vent or a window or something so that you have a little bit of ventilation going on. If you are going to be staying extendedly somewhere, we have another video up here called 16 Winter Solutions. You can check that out up here, and hopefully that will give you some more ideas on how you can hunker down for the winter if you're not wanting to skirt. We did not skirt when we stayed in Colombia for 13 weeks. We probably could have, but we didn't realize it until like halfway through that we might even need to skirt, and by that time we only had 6 weeks left in the contract, and so we figured that we could skirt by without one. So that's what we did. But skirting is definitely a good option if you're going to be staying put in one area for a while. I hope that you guys have enjoyed these tips and that you have found them helpful. I'm gonna go inside and get a refill on my coffee and warm up because I'm a little chilled now. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate you. I am working on getting to all of your comments and making sure that I respond to them. So thank you for leaving comments. They really make our day. Have a blessed week and we will see you out there. Stay warm. How do you think my teeth? People probably wonder what in the world I'm doing because I'm literally like walking around my RV randomly. It's like a microphone. Oh, ew. Oh, I just touched it. Is it dioxide or monoxide? Why do I always get this wrong? Now I'm gonna have to look it up. Carbon. Carbon. Floating carbon. Carbon monoxide.